Hey you guys, after like a year, I'm finally doing the breakdown on Sora's combat in Kingdom Hearts 1, closing the chapter on the base Sora combat from Cage 1 to Cage 3, except for all the side games, because I'm not doing that. Anyway, Sora does 2 slashes before finishing with a strong spinning attack. Yep, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed, subscribe, and, see you in the next video. Also follow me on Twitch, do a lot of streams, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy. Seriously though. This video will be covering the base attacks, combo modifiers, limits, and magic. I don't want to waste your time, so let's get right into it. The main combo starts out with an overhead slash followed by a side swipe. The combo finisher is a really fluid spinning attack. The animation looks really clean with Sora taking a step forward and spinning as he strikes. You can really see the weight of this attack. Let's move to the air combo. This starts the same way with an overhead slash before Sora follows up with an upper slash and ends with a spinning attack. Again, the way you fall and pair with the animations give this a ton of weight. Besides the combo finisher, the sequence of attacks will change depending on the situation. Like if there's an enemy above Sora, you will strike upwards first before doing the overhead slash. I really love seeing situational attacks like this since it adds a unique feeling to combat. This is probably where I should add the Merman Sora attacks. It's pretty much the same as the base ground combo, but he does do a cool little backflip as he crosses his arms and slashes upwards. It's cool. I like it. One thing to note about KH1's combat is you actually can time your inputs when attacking, since just mashing will actually make your attacks come out slower. Okay, now let's look at the combo modifiers. I think what I'll do is go to the ability screen and just scroll down through them all. Well, the ones that have something to do with combat. When you guard, Sora holds up the Keyblade in front of himself to block an incoming attack. Depending on your Keyblade, you will have a hidden recoil stat which affects your guard. If it is low, Sora will be knocked back a bit more, stumbling a bit. And if you have the counter ability, it will not trigger. If you have a high recoil stat, you'll have another animation. The other guard animation still shows knockback, but Sora doesn't stumble, and he can follow up with a counter if you have the ability. Novion actually has a great video outlining all the different Keyblades and diving into the stats of each one. You've probably seen it already, but if you haven't, click the card on screen. Let's look at the next ability, Counter Attack. This lets you quickly counter after recoiling from an attack or guard. Sora quickly turns on one foot before slashing forward with a powerful attack. Slapshot is your next ability and is exclusive to the Final Mix version. This is an incredibly fast uppercut attack that has such a smooth animation. Sora fluidly takes 2 steps forward during the slash, and it looks and feels so good. This pops up in Kingdom Hearts 2 as well. Sliding Dash is another Final Mix ability, perfect for rushing towards a distant enemy. The animation is a little wonky, but Sora puts his Keyblade on the ground, spinning around it before sliding forward with his Keyblade out in front of himself. At the end of the attack, Sora hops up into his battle stance. This was actually seen first in Chain of Memories, I believe, as the first slate you receive in the game. Vortex is also an ability that is used to close the distance between you and the enemies. The animation is a simple spinning attack forward. It can sometimes parry attacks from enemies, but is pretty slow and can leave you open to attack. This kind of reminds me of the dodge slash ability in Kingdom Hearts 2. While it does have some utility in mobs of hitting multiple enemies with the possibility of parrying attacks, I feel like it is too slow and leaves you too open. Aerial Sweep is your last combo modifier and is a transitional attack from the ground to an airborne enemy. Sora spins upwards towards the enemy with his Keyblade outstretched. This ability also appears in Cage 2, Recoded, and Cage 3. Now let's look at these special combo finishers. Blitz is a strong quick attack downwards, with Sora jumping completely in the air as he slashes down. This appears as a slate in Chain of Memories as a 3-hit attack, as well as a command in Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance. It also looks similar to one of the normal combo finishers in Cage 2. Hurricane Blast is the next combo finisher and is exclusive to Final Mix. Actually, the rest of the combo finishers are all from the Final Mix version of the game, which is kinda crazy. Hurricane Blast simply shows Sora spinning with his Keyblade outstretched. He'll continue to spin until he reaches the ground, switching to his normal falling animation right before landing. This attack appears in Cage 2 and 3 as well. Ripple Drive is one of my favorite combo finishers. This gains more strength depending on your MP stat. Energy gathers around Sora before he strikes upwards into the air, creating a rippling dome magic around himself. This attack shows up again in Cage 2 and 3. Stun Impact was an attack that originated from a slate in Chain of Memories, but also appears in Recoded and Kingdom Hearts 3. Magic circles in towards Sora as he raises his arms up. He lifts up his leg before jumping into a crouch, pushing out an orb of energy, with lightning arcing from the orb to Sora. Gravity Break is the next finisher and shows Sora conjuring gravity magic at the edge of his Keyblade before casting it on the ground. This works the same way as the gravity magic, though does use a different calculation for damage. The gravity spell is based on your MP to deal a percentage of damage to the enemy, while the combo finisher looks at your strength stat. While it is not completely the same, this attack really reminds me of the combo finisher in Kingdom Hearts 3, with the combat patch released alongside the Remind DLC. Zantetsuken is the last combo finisher. Sora crouches as he spins the Keyblade in front of his hand as light flashes around the hilt. Sora catches the Keyblade in a backhand position before jumping forward with the Keyblade in front of himself. You can see some air effects circling around Sora while he jumps forward. This attack is seen in so many different games, like pretty much all of them I think. Now let's look at Sora's limit commands. There are 5 limits: Strike Raid, Sonic Blade, Ars Arcanum, Ragnarok, and Trinity Limit. Every time you use one of these limits, magic will arc out from Sora. Strike Raid has Sora throwing his Keyblade forward with magic circling around it. It will disappear after a while and return back to Sora. The triangle command shows Raid for each throw except the final throw, which is called Judgment. This is a stronger throw to end off the limit. Sonic Blade is next and is a simple dash forward with the Rave command appearing for each dash. The final dash is called Blast and is a stronger dash to end the limit. Ars Arcanum is a combo attack with multiple slashes with a Keyblade wreathed in light. After the combo, you can press triangle to continue the barrage of attacks. Ragnarok is a limit that shows Sora attacking up into an air combo before floating and gathering energy around his Keyblade. You can use the Impact command at any point, though depending on when you use it, more rays will shoot out. If you use Impact when you see the light flash around the orb, that will shoot off the most rays. Missing the command will show the magic disappearing and the attack will end. The final limit is Trinity Limit. This uses all of your remaining MP, but needs at least 3 MP to trigger. Donald and Goofy transform into light as Sora glows. The orbs hit the top of the outstretched Keyblade, which creates a single orb of light. Sora turns and flips backwards, sinking his Keyblade into the ground. This shoots out a shockwave and 4 points of light form with magic circles around them. This actually looks to spawn 2 circles of text, though it is hard to make out what it is since the textures look pretty blurry. A giant magic circle is formed with Mickey heads making up the sides of it. As these circles are forming, Sora spins around over the Keyblade before landing, shooting up 5 beams of light. The center beam of light hits the orb of light in the air, causing that to shoot out light in all directions. The screen whites out before it fades, showing Sora pull the Keyblade out of the ground. All of these limits are recurring attacks throughout the series in one way or another, which is such a nice homage to the original game. It always triggers that feeling of nostalgia when you see an attack and realize it connects back to the original game. The last thing we will cover is the magic that Sora has at his disposal. The first magic is Fire. This is a quick projectile attack that will home in on an enemy. The effects around this cast are pretty simple, and you can rapid cast this as long as you have the MP for it. Next up is Blizzaga that acts as a shotgun-like attack. This does not have the long range that the fire does, but it does have a wide range. To get the full effect, casting this in the air will give you a much larger spread. There will be 7 shots cast out regardless, but if you're on the ground, it will be 2 shots upwards and 5 casts in front of you, as opposed to the burst in the air that has 2 shots upwards and downwards with 3 in the middle. The Thunder spell calls down multiple pillars of lightning down around you. If you are locked onto an enemy, the lightning will be called down around them. Pretty self-explanatory. Cure is also pretty self-explanatory, with a cure effect appearing above the person being healed. Gravity looks really cool as it is cast and has dark magic circles in the center as the gravity cast sinks to the ground. As previously touched upon, gravity does a percentage of damage to the enemy based on how much health they have, as well as how much max MP Sora has. Stop shows prisms shooting out around Sora, as well as numbers circling around him. Numbers, as well as a circle that shows the negative color, appears around targeted enemies. The last bit of magic is Arrow, which creates a shield of air around Sora that negates some damage. The higher cast will actually deal damage and be able to parry certain attacks. And I think that is all I have for you guys today. I was actually a little worried that this would be a simple breakdown, but it was actually a ton of fun to see how these attacks changed and evolved throughout the series. I hope you enjoyed this and learned something new about Kingdom Hearts 1. This game is a treasure trove of cool details and Easter eggs. If you have not checked out Novion or Regular Pat, they are fantastic creators that really know Kingdom Hearts 1 well. I highly recommend their content. Hey you guys, today we are looking into base Sora's combat from Kingdom Hearts 2. This was heavily requested ever since my form change breakdowns, and I thought now would be a good time to cover some of them during this break between series. I will be looking at Sora's combat from Kingdom Hearts 3 next week probably, and then we will go on to Riku's links from Dream Drop Distance. Anyways, for this breakdown, I will be splitting it up into a few sections. We will look at ground combat, then air combat, before looking at combo modifiers. I'll be treating any abilities that change Sora's base combat as combo modifiers, as well as the square modifiers such as horizontal slash. After that, I will end with guarding and recoveries. I feel like magic is pretty self-explanatory for base form Sora, so I won't be covering that. I'm a little overwhelmed with trying to cover all the minute details involving base Sora, so I may miss some things. If I do, let me know down in the comments below or on Discord. It's very much appreciated and helps me keep an eye out for more details in future content. Anyways, that's enough rambling, let's get started on the breakdown. The ground combo is pretty simple with 3 different attacks and a combo finisher. The 3 attacks are an overhead slash, a horizontal one, and a thrust attack, which is actually a 2-hit attack, with the first being the thrust and the second being a diagonal slash up out of the thrust. Your combo will open differently depending on a couple of factors. If you have a single enemy in front of you and you are close enough, you will do the overhead slash. If there are multiple enemies around you though, you'll do the horizontal attack. The thrusting attack will trigger first if you are a certain distance away from the enemy. The base combo finisher also changes depending on how many enemies are around you. If there's a single enemy in front of you, Sora will twist into the air as he does a slice downward. If you are surrounded by enemies though, Sora will twist as he slices horizontally. It's really cool how intricate even the base combo is with Kingdom Hearts 2 Sora. While combo finishers could be considered combo modifiers, I'm going to cover them in the base combat sections. Sora has 2 additional combo finishers, which are Guard Break and Explosion. Guard Break triggers if you are attacking a single enemy. Sora jumps back and spins the Keyblade in the air before grabbing it and thrusting forward. You can see light where Sora launches from, and a ray of light appears in front of him with an additional beam of light circling around it. As the name suggests, this will break through guards and defenses such as the front of a large body. Explosion triggers if you are surrounded by enemies. Sora and his Keyblade will glow with light as he raises the blade above his head. He then brings the Keyblade down, spawning 3 orbs of magic around himself that circle around. Each orb also has 2 smaller orbs that spin around them. And that is it for the base ground combo. Let's move on to the air combo. The air combo is pretty simple with just 2 attacks in the base combo. This is a strike downward and a strike upward. You will usually start with the strike downward, though if an enemy is above you while you are on the ground, you will do the upward strike first. The combo finisher is similar to the ground combo in that it will change depending on if you are attacking a single enemy or multiple enemies. If you are attacking a single enemy, Sora will do an overhead slash, letting the momentum propel him into a flip. If he's attacking multiple enemies though, Sora will do a horizontal slash, using the momentum to twist himself in the air afterwards. Like the ground combo, the air combo has 2 additional combo finishers, Aerial Finish and Magnet Burst. Aerial Finish will trigger if you are attacking a single enemy, and shows Sora slashing in multiple directions, which spawns rays of light. It's actually pretty interesting to see it slowed down since I never really understood how the light circling around Sora worked. It seems like each slash of Sora's Keyblade will spawn a ray of light that spins around Sora in the direction of the slash. So the initial slash up spawns one going that direction, and it will keep spinning as Sora slashes downward, spawning another ray. He then does a diagonal slash before he spins the Keyblade behind himself and slashes downward, spawning 2 rays of light. Magnet Burst triggers when you are attacking multiple enemies. Sora twists in the air as he spawns a cast of magnet around himself. The blue and red orbs circle in around Sora and circle around him before Sora raises his Keyblade as a ring of blue light pushes outward. There's also a ring of orbs that spread out away from Sora during this. Each enemy hit has a reddish ring of light around them and is pushed away from Sora. Now that we are done with the base combos, let's talk about combo modifiers. These change Sora's attacks based on different factors. I want to break this section into 3 parts. We'll talk about the ground combo modifiers first, the air modifiers second, and the square modifiers third. So let's look at the ground combo modifiers first. The first modifier we will be looking at is Dodge Slash. This is one that has been labeled as a quote-unquote bad ability, though I don't really think it is. If you read the ability's description, you will see that it can hit other enemies around you while you're attacking. This can be used to stun or hit surrounding enemies out of an attack. It does slow your combo down quite a bit and leaves you open if you miss, so it should really only be used when dealing with mobs. The next modifier is Flash Step. This triggers if you are a certain distance away. You can think of it as a medium distance away since after a certain distance, Flash Step will not trigger. Sora will kick off the ground jumping towards the enemy and slicing upwards. Light can be seen on the ground when he kicks off as well as when he lands. 2 lines of air create an X in front of Sora after the slash as well. This attack hits twice, with the initial hit coming from the dash and the second hit coming from the upward slash. This attack can also break through guards and also will not be stopped by an enemy's attack. Other attacks will have you bouncing off an enemy's attack, while Flash Step will keep your attack going. Slapshot is the next modifier and is a throwback to the Final Mix version of Kingdom Hearts 1. This is just a quick slash upward during your combo. It also does not throw you back when you parry an enemy. The next modifier is Sliding Dash. Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix had an ability with the same name, though the actual attack is not the same. Sliding Dash in KH2 shows Sora flipping the Keyblade in a style similar to Ventus and dashing toward the enemy. At the end of the attack, Sora will twist as he flips the Keyblade back to his normal attacking style. This will hit 3 times during the dash. The last ground modifier is Vicinity Break. This triggers if you are surrounded by enemies. Sora will crouch and turn, holding the Keyblade behind himself before slicing outwards and twisting around in a full circle. 2 rays of light follow his slice and 2 shockwaves shoot out from the ground. And that is it for the ground modifiers. Let's move on to the air ones. The first modifier is Aerial Dive. The only time I have been able to trigger this is when I'm on the ground and attacking an airborne enemy. Sora will flip 4 times while slashing at the enemy. He turns during his flips to change the direction of his slashes. The next modifier, Aerial Spiral, is pretty similar to the previous attack in that Sora spins and slashes at the enemy. He turns backwards though with this attack and flips forward, slicing at the enemy 3 times. The last air modifier is Aerial Sweep, and is another throwback to Kingdom Hearts 1. This attack triggers if you are on the ground below an airborne enemy. Sora will spin upwards with his Keyblade out, slicing at the enemy. The difference between Aerial Dive and Aerial Sweep is that Aerial Dive is one that is for enemies that are far away, and Aerial Sweep is for ones that are closer to you, since both trigger when you're below an airborne enemy. And that is it for the air modifiers. Let's move on to our last set. Square modifiers are a little bit different in that you have to be in a combo to actually trigger them, and Combo Master does not affect these abilities, so you have to have a hit connect to be able to use a square modifier. The first square modifier is Upper Slash. This can be used after the first hit of your combo connects. With no combo pluses equipped, you can do 2 upper slashes after the first hit. With combo pluses, the most I've been able to do is 4 upper slashes. This attack launches smaller enemies into the air so you can transition into an air combo. Finishing Leap is the other square modifier usable on the ground. This only triggers at the end of the combo or after a combo finisher. Sora will jump into the air as the tip of his Keyblade glows with light. He then stabs it into the ground, creating 5 explosions around himself. Air can be seen being pushed out away from Sora during this attack. Like Upper Slash, this sets you up to transition to an air combo, though Finishing Leap can also send up bigger enemies into the air. The last square modifier is Horizontal Slash, and can only be used during an air combo. This shows Sora doing 3 quick strikes. And that is it for Sora's combat. The only other things I want to talk about are guarding and recoveries. Let's talk about Sora's guard first. Sora's guard shows him twisting so his back faces forward as he holds his key out in front of himself with one hand. If a hit connects, Sora's model kinda bugs out. It will instantly switch to Sora facing forward again with both of his hands braced against the Keyblade. An effect that looks a little similar to the Reflect Shell appears as well. If you have the Counter Guard ability equipped, you can attack after a hit connects with your guard. This will show Sora jumping forward and uncrossing his arms, causing air and a ring of light to shoot outward. Sora also has 2 recoveries, which are Aerial Recovery and Retaliating Slash. Aerial Recovery lets you recover after being hit. Sora will flip backwards as air spins around him and a ring of light is pushed out. It is actually the same air effect as Flash Step. The same effects can be seen with Retaliating Slash, though Sora does a spinning strike before ending with an overhead slash. And that is it for today. I am always trying to improve my editing and effects for my content, so I try to experiment a little bit. I've noticed that I don't do much with audio effects, so I try to do a little bit more of that in this video. Let me know what you thought of that down in the comments below or on Discord. I loved putting this video together, so thank you all for requesting it. If you want me to look into something particular, let me know down below in the comments. Hey you guys, today we'll be looking at Sora's lion form. This was a form in Kingdom Hearts 2 that was tied to the Pride Lands world. Sora changes into a lion cub and holds his Keyblade in his mouth. His combat was also changed. The ground combo is pretty simple. Sora alternates between a downwards attack and a twisting slash. The first combo finisher has Sora doing a front flip before slicing down. This attack leaves him facing backwards at the end. The other combo finisher shows Sora running forward before slashing up into a backflip. You can actually cut off the first combo finisher early so you don't end up turned around with the second combo finisher. The air combo is also pretty simple, with Sora using the same up and down slashes he does in his base form. The combo finisher has Sora spinning once horizontally, slashing out with his Keyblade, before twisting upwards and spinning twice more. If you have Finishing Plus, you can do another combo finisher and skip part of the attack. There are also different combo modifiers while in lion form for both the ground and the air. Like in base form, you must have regular hit connect to actually use a combo modifier. You can use the first combo modifier during your base combo, but before your combo finisher. This is actually the second combo finisher Sora does on the ground. The other ground combo modifier triggers if you press square in place of a combo finisher. This shows Sora making his Keyblade disappear before he roars, pushing out a shockwave. Wind swirls around him and a beam of light shoots upwards from the center. You can also see other thin beams of light shooting up during this attack. Enemies hit by this will be pushed away from Sora. You can actually use this twice in a row or follow up this attack with a regular combo finisher if you have Finishing Plus equipped. Just like in base form, after your initial hit, you can chain together a string of combo modifier attacks as long as your hits connect. Moving on, you only have one air combo modifier. Sora turns his head so that his Keyblade is pointing straight out in front of him as he spins forward in the air. During the world's story, Sora will gain access to a dash ability as well as an attack during this dash. This allows Sora to spin in an AoE type of attack while still dashing forward. This will cancel out though if you walk off the edge. This cancel also happens when using magic sometimes. The magic while in lion form is not too different. You can't use finishers and will just keep casting magic until you run out. Also, you can actually cast magic while you're dashing. Sora has a couple different animations while casting magic. or Fire, Reflect, and Magnet, Sora will twist in the air so his Keyblade is pointing into the air before twisting to land back on the ground. His other animation is used while casting Blizzard, Thunder, and Cure. This has Sora flipping backwards as he casts it. Before I end the video, I want to point out a couple of random things that I found interesting. Sora's idle animation while in lion form shows him sitting back on his back legs. This will happen with or without your Keyblade. Also, Sora's walking and running cycle will change depending on if he is in or out of battle. During battle, Sora will crouch down further than he will out of battle, and his idle animation during battle shows him pawing at the ground. If you die while in lion form, Sora will hang in the air without a heart above him. And that is all I have for you guys today. Hey you guys, today we are breaking down Sora's base combat and movement abilities from Kingdom Hearts 3. It is something I've really been looking forward to, and I'm so excited to finally be able to put this video out. For this breakdown, we'll be cutting it down into multiple sections. We will talk about the different combos, the modifiers, flow motion, guarding and the reprisals, magic, movement, and underwater mechanics. This is probably going to be a pretty long and detailed video, so grab some popcorn, get comfy, and let's get into it. We will be starting with the base combat for Sora first. The ground combos are actually extremely similar to Kingdom Hearts 2. Sora has 3 attacks in the base combo: an overhead slash, a thrust, and a horizontal attack. Like with Kingdom Hearts 2, the attacks you deal are situational. If you are attacking a single enemy, then you will open your combo with the overhead slash. Sora holds the Keyblade with 2 hands as he jumps into the air and slices downward. If you are far away from an enemy, you will do the thrusting attack, which shows Sora crouching back and thrusting forward, spawning a ray of light in front of him and a burst of spiraling air behind. The horizontal attack triggers when you are surrounded by enemies. Sora crouches and turns before jumping into the air, twisting as he slices out at enemies. There are 4 combo finishers that Sora has access to. 1 is his base finisher, and 3 are obtained later on. These finishers stack and have a finishing plus effect to them, so you don't need an extra ability that lets you trigger another combo finisher. As soon as you get the finisher, you can add it on to the end of your combo. I'll talk more about how the combo works in Kingdom Hearts 3 later on. Anyways, Sora's base combo finisher shows him flipping into the air before slicing downwards, causing a ray of light to spawn. This looks incredibly similar to the Quick Blitz ability. The second combo finisher, Speed Slash, has Sora doing 2 diagonal slashes downward before spinning and slashing outwards with his Keyblade. These beams of light appear following Sora's slashes during this attack. The next combo finisher, Triple Rush, shows Sora spinning on one foot as he spins the Keyblade in his hand. Sora then thrusts forward 3 times quickly, spawning a ray of light each time. This is pretty reminiscent to the thrust seen in the normal combo. This finisher will trigger if you are a certain distance away from the enemy. The last combo finisher, Magic Flash, has Sora floating up and dashing forward before spinning and raising his Keyblade, causing a beam of blue light to appear. White sparkles also appear around the Keyblade as well as around Sora during the attack. The base attacks in the air also have similarities to Sora's combat from Kingdom Hearts 2. Sora does both a downward strike and an upward strike, as well as the same horizontal slash he does on the ground. The base combo finisher in the air shows Sora doing an attack that looks extremely similar to Aerial Spiral from Kingdom Hearts 2. Both attacks show Sora twisting backwards before spinning with the Keyblade out, striking enemies. In Kingdom Hearts 3 though, Sora does 2 flips before stretching out and moving to face forwards again as he does a backflip slashing at enemies. Speed Slash is slightly different in that the horizontal slashes are not both downward like the one on the ground. Sora slices down first, but then slices upwards horizontally with the second slash before doing the spinning slash. Magic Flash and Triple Rush do not change in the air. Triple Rush does seem to have lost the rays of light on the first 2 thrusts though. Something interesting about the new combo system is that if you have no combo pluses, the combo finishers will take the place of the regular attacks in the combo. So, for example, if you have 3 combo finishers equipped and no combo pluses, you will do 1 normal attack before moving on to the combo finishers. If you have 1 combo plus equipped, you will do 2 attacks before the combo finishers, and with 2 combo pluses, you will do 3 attacks before the finishers. There are also some situational attacks in Kingdom Hearts 3. If Sora is in the air and far away from an enemy, he'll do an attack that will bring him close to the enemy. If you are above the enemy in the air, Sora will twist in the air before slicing towards the enemy. Sora will use the momentum from the attack to flip. If you are lower than the enemy, Sora will do the upward strike he does in the normal combo. If Sora is sliding down a hill when you attack, Sora will drop the Keyblade on the ground and twist into the air before landing on it like a skateboard and dashing at the enemy. This may be a subtle nod to both the Sky Climber command style from Birth by Sleep and the skateboarding mechanic from Kingdom Hearts 2. If you are free running, Sora will jump off the wall flipping forwards before attacking with a spinning slash. If you are running to the right, Sora will skip the flip and just jump into the air before doing 2 spinning slashes. If you are running to the left, Sora will also do the spinning slashes but will flip backwards instead of forwards. There are also some combo finishers that you will do with Donald and Goofy if you are close enough to them. Donald has 3 situational attacks, which are Unison Fire, Blizzard, and Thunder. These are AoE elemental attacks that Sora and Donald cast together. Goofy's team attacks are Fusion Rocket and Fusion Spin. Fusion Rocket shows Sora and Goofy jumping into the air before spiraling forward, bashing enemies out of the way. Fusion Spin is an AoE attack showing Sora grabbing Goofy and throwing him forward, making him spin around Sora. There are also 3 combo modifiers for Sora. 1 is a situational modifier and 2 are circle modifiers. The situational attack, Falling Slash, triggers if you are above a grounded enemy. Sora twists in the air before raising his Keyblade over his head and slamming it down on the enemy. The circle modifiers, Rising Spiral and Ground Breaker, are transitional modifiers that let you either send the enemy up into the air from a ground combo or send an enemy to the ground from an air combo. Rising Spiral is simply what the name says, a rising attack that shows Sora twisting in a spiral. Groundbreaker shows Sora doing a flipping slash. When the enemy is hit by this, they will fly towards the ground. Much like Kingdom Hearts 2, you have to have a preceding attack before you can trigger it, though Combo Master lets you trigger these even if your attacks miss, contrary to Kingdom Hearts 2, where your hit had to connect before you could use a square modifier. The circle modifiers in Kingdom Hearts 3 can also be triggered by any kind of attack, including right after a flow motion attack. I'll save this for another video, but I do want to note that while Sora's base form does not have the same level of combo modifier abilities as Kingdom Hearts 2, most of his form changes have unique combo modifiers such as sliding dash variants or vicinity break variants. Anyways, Sora has access to flow motion in Kingdom Hearts 3, which is signified by Sora having a blue aura. During movement, blue orbs will trail behind him. Sora has special flow motion abilities like Super Slide, which lets you dash off a wall, and Super Jump, which lets you jump incredibly high after triggering flow motion. Super Jump can only be used once per flow motion cycle though, and cannot be spammed endlessly like it could in Dream Drop Distance. What I mean by this is you can't dash into a wall, super jump, and then dash into another wall and super jump again. You have to land on the ground, go out of flow motion before you can dash into a wall and super jump again. Anyways, it seems grinding on rails is also flow motion since Sora glows blue while riding the rails, and blue orbs can be seen flying behind him. While grinding, you have access to the commands Blaster, Super Slide, and Jump. The Blaster attack shows Sora shooting out orbs of light that have sparkles trailing behind them. Super Slide is the same dash that you can trigger off of walls, and Jump is the super jump ability talked about previously. Air Step is another flow motion move and can be used with the shot lock mechanic. When you air step, Sora will fly towards the enemy and kick off of them, flipping backwards. A kind of glass shattering effect can be seen around the area you kick off as well. After you air step over to an enemy, you have the ability to attack with flow motion. Many of the flow motion attacks are similar to the attacks from Dream Drop Distance. The first attack, Sonic Slash, though, is unique to Kingdom Hearts 3 and shows Sora doing a 2-hit combo. The first hit is a downward slash followed up by an upward strike that flips Sora backwards. This can be used to hit enemies up into the air. You can chain straight into a combo from flow motion attacks, which is pretty convenient. Sonic Cleave is a flow motion attack that shows Sora twisting in the air before raising the Keyblade over his head and slamming it down to the ground. This causes a giant ray of light to shoot forward, as well as 2 smaller rays to shoot out diagonally on either side. The other 2 flow motion attacks happen while spinning on poles. If you dash into a pole, Sora will spin a couple of times around it, showing the tip of his Keyblade glowing with light, as well as a ray of light spinning around the pole. This spinning pulls in enemies who are close enough. If you are spinning on a vertical pole, Sora will do an attack called Buzzsaw. This attack actually triggers if you are surrounded by enemies as well. Sora spins around in the air, slashing outwards at enemies. There is 1 ray of light that follows his slash, but then there is also 2 rays of light that spawn halfway through the attack. Light also spirals out from the center of this attack. If Sora is spinning on a horizontal pole, he'll do an attack called Somersault. This shows him flipping in the air, slashing out at enemies around the pole before dashing forward with the attack. His attack spawns the double rays of light, as well as showing light spiraling out. Something that is kind of associated with flow motion is that if you dash towards a wall and then fall off without touching the control stick, Sora will bug and have access to Combo Master. From my testing, this is the only way I've been able to make this Combo Master bug work. What I mean by this is if you don't have Combo Master equipped and you dash into a wall, fall off of it, as you can see on screen, you can keep attacking and go through your entire combo. Anyways, moving on, Sora's guard in Kingdom Hearts 3 is the same as his guard in Kingdom Hearts 2, though Sora can guard on both the ground and air now in 3. Sora twists and holds his Keyblade out in front of himself. If a hit connects with his guard, Sora will flip forward and hold his free hand up to his Keyblade to brace himself. Like Kingdom Hearts 2, the guard animation looks a little bugged out since in one frame his back is facing the enemy, and in the next he is completely twisted around to face the enemy. On your journey, you will gain 3 reprisals that let you counterattack after you successfully guard an attack. These can only be equipped one at a time. The first reprisal is called Counter Slash and is a simple upward slash. Sora spins and slashes upwards, causing sparks to fly into the air. The slash pulls Sora into the air and he twists once before coming back down to the ground. Counter Impact shows Sora doing a spinning slash as 4 beams of light shoot up from the ground around him. Air is also pushed out during this attack. The last reprisal, Counter Kick, shows Sora jumping back and flipping twice before jumping off the air and sending his Keyblade down by his feet as it spins around, drilling into enemies. Light streams back around Sora during this attack. At the end of the attack, he grabs his Keyblade and flips back. I actually think this attack is pretty reminiscent to the finisher for Sky Climber. If you have the ability Final Blow equipped, you can teleport to an enemy and continue attacking after a successful reprisal. The attack you do is similar to the Speed Slash combo finisher. Sora will do 2 diagonal strikes upward before doing a rising spinning strike. After this teleporting attack, you can continue with a normal combo. If you are fighting a strong enemy, sometimes they will break your guard. If you have the ability Wrist Dodge equipped, you can dodge the incoming attack and counterattack. These are the ones I have found so far, though there may be some enemies I've missed. One dodge shows Sora jumping over the enemy, flipping and twisting in the air. Attacking during this dodge will show Sora's Keyblade flashing with light and glowing with a golden color. Sora will throw his Keyblade at the enemy in a Strike Raid-esque manner before calling the Keyblade back to his hand. Another dodge shows him sliding around the enemy to get behind him. Birth by Sleep actually had a similar mechanic. If you attack during this dodge, Sora will do 2 diagonal slashes upward before doing a flipping slash that sends a ray of light flying forward. The only other dodge I found was when you are fighting the Rock Troll. Sora will slide between its legs, and if you attack, Sora will plunge his Keyblade into the ground before slicing up with 2 diagonal slashes. Also, once Sora teleported, rather than sliding out of the Rock Troll's legs, and did this attack here, which looks like he is doing the same diagonal slashes, though they are going downward instead of upward. I've only had this happen once though, and couldn't get it to trigger again. If you've seen one that I missed, let me know down in the comments below. Critical Mode introduced a new ability called Critical Counter, which increased the damage of reprisals if you blocked right before an enemy attacked. Alongside guarding, you also have aerial recovery, as well as an ability called Payback Strike that lets you counterattack after recovering. This shows Sora flipping upside down before slashing out horizontally in a circle. He then follows it up with 2 diagonal slashes downward before ending with a diagonal slash upward. I don't want to spend too much time breaking down magic since it's pretty self-explanatory. I do want to point out though that casts of fire are seemingly faster with each upgrade, and Firaga can bounce off of certain walls or surfaces. Also, water magic gives you a couple iframes and also can attack shadows that are hiding in the ground. Blizzard and Thunder also have the ability to cause status effects to enemies. Also use Firaga against the final boss fight against the 13 vessels because holy crap. Anyways, let's move on. Sora has quite a few movement options in Kingdom Hearts 3, including double flight, gliding, and dodging. When you dodge on the ground, you will obviously do a dodge roll, and while you are in the air, you will do an air dash, which changes to an air dodge during battle. Dodging is a good way of breaking out of a combo if you see a threat coming. Free running and falling are pretty self-explanatory, so I won't be covering them. Though I did want to point out that the attack option will change to diving strike when the attack is available while free falling. And while free running, if you start running up a wall and stop moving, Sora will kick off the wall into a flip before landing on the ground. Also, there is a special animation for when Sora is falling close to a wall. Sora will kind of hug the wall while falling. Sora's base idle animation shows him putting his hands behind his head and leaning back slightly. Ventus does a similar thing in Birth by Sleep. During battle, Sora's idle animation shows him looking around in a ready stance. Sora's normal jumping animation as well as his high jump animation are pretty similar to his Kingdom Hearts 1 jumps. Sora also has a completely different arsenal when fighting underwater. His combo has 3 attacks and a combo finisher. The first attack shows Sora curling into a ball and flipping before doing a flipping slash that shoots forward a wave of light. He then follows it up with 3 quick thrusts that each shoot forward an orb of water. The last attack before the combo finisher is an AoE attack that shows Sora spinning around slashing out at enemies. The combo finisher has Sora pulling back before thrusting his hand forward, spinning the Keyblade in front of himself and causing a tornado-like effect. I'm not a huge fan of this finisher since it locks you in the attack for a little too long for my liking, so I usually do only the first 2 attacks when underwater since they are pretty quick and do decent damage. All of the magic except for water is also changed. There are also no tiers of magic, so if you equip Blizzard and Blizzaga to your shortcut menu, it will revert both commands to Sea Blizzard. Anyways, let's start with fire. Sea Fire is not really changed except that water surrounds the fire projectile that you shoot. Sea Blizzard is a close range attack that shotguns ice outwards in front of Sora. Sea Thunder shoots out an orb that explodes on impact, and Arrow is not really changed from how it works above water. There's a couple of form changes that actually seem like they use the same kind of magic that Sea Thunder is. And that is all of the things I could find for base Sora in Kingdom Hearts 3. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope this showed you just how detailed and impressive Kingdom Hearts 3 really is. Hey you guys, today we're going to be breaking down the base shot locks of all the current Keyblades in Kingdom Hearts 3. These shot locks were not included in the form change breakdowns that I did since the base shot locks are not associated with the form changes. I saw a couple people asking about this in my breakdowns, so I just wanted to address that at the start of the video. Anyways, the shot locks in Kingdom Hearts 3 have 5 different variations, with 3 of them being based on the shot locks in Birth by Sleep. These 3 are the Ragnarok-like attacks, the charges, and the blades. I'm going to organize all of the Kingdom Hearts 3 shot locks into 5 groups and talk about the general way that the shot locks work, and then point out how they look different with the various Keyblades. Let's start with the Ragnarok shot locks first. There are 3 Keyblades that use this type of shot lock, though if you're counting the DLC Keyblades, then there are 6, I believe. These Keyblades are Kingdom Key, Happy Gear, and Honey Spout. The Shotlock shows Sora charging up energy on the tip of his Keyblade before shooting out individual projectiles that home in on the enemies you've targeted. The Kingdom Keys version of the Shotlock is called King of Hearts and can lock onto 23 enemies. Light and wind are pulled towards the tip of the Keyblade, and an orb of light builds up around the key. The orb bursts and heart projectiles appear and circle out from the Kingdom Key, homing in on enemies. The hearts have sparkles and light trailing behind them. Happy Gear's version of the Shotlock is called Snakebite and can lock onto 17 targets. A spinning portal appears in front of the tip of the Keyblade and slowly condenses before shooting out orbs with snakes on them. You can actually see the teeth of the snake on the orb, and the bodies of these snakes make up the trail behind the orb. Honey Spout's Shotlock is called Honey Burst and can lock onto 27 targets. Streams of honey circle towards the Keyblade, and you can see a very light orb of light, or maybe honey, expand as it charges. Bees made of honey burst out of the orb and target enemies. The trails are made up of light and sparkles, as well as a trail of honey. I was wondering if it would cause a honey status effect on enemies, but I never saw the effect triggered during my testing. Let's move on to the next group of Shotlocks. The next category is what I call the Shooting Star Shotlocks, since the first Keyblade you can use this with is Shooting Star. Very original, I know. Anyways, there are 3 Keyblades associated with this Shotlock: Shooting Star, Nano Gear, and Grand Chef. The Shotlock has Sora flipping backwards as he spins the Keyblade around himself. He throws his arm forward and spins the Keyblade in front of himself, spawning projectiles that home in on targeted enemies. At the end of the Shotlock, Sora guides the Keyblade back to his hand. The Shooting Star Shotlock is called Meteor Shower and can lock onto 17 targets. The projectiles spawned are stars with sparkles and orbs of light trailing behind them. Nano Gear Shotlock is called Cube Extreme and can lock onto 23 targets. These projectiles are streams of data cubes with blue data flowing behind them. Grand Chef's Shotlock is called Steam Spiral and can lock onto 31 targets. The projectiles and effects are extremely similar to the swirls of imagination seen during the cooking minigame and, of course, the original movie. The next category is the Drain Shotlocks. There are only 2 Keyblades associated with this one: Hero's Origin and Ever After. This Shotlock is pretty simple. It targets the enemies and drains them of their HP. Sora raises his Keyblade and you can see the HP orbs fly up and towards Sora. They all spiral towards Sora as they get closer. At the end, Sora does a twist in the air. Hero's Origin's Shotlock is called Drain Shock and can target 15 enemies. When Sora jumps into the air, lightning bolts appear around him. Ever After's Shotlock is called Shimmering Drops and can target 27 enemies. When Sora jumps into the air, flower petals and hair can be seen around him. The next category is the Charge Shotlocks. There are only 2 Keyblades associated with this one: Favorite Deputy and Classic Tone. The Shotlock shows Sora throwing the Keyblade upwards as he spins around. He then catches the Keyblade, holding it backwards like Ventus, before disappearing in a flash of light. A strike of light appears and an after image shows him dashing forward. He will dash at the number of enemies targeted, disappearing at the end of the charge and reappearing to attack the next enemy. At the end of the strikes, he will reappear back at his original spot with a flash of light. This last part does not seem to damage enemies though, since you can see a Neo Shadow here moving and it does not seem to be staggered from the attack. At the end of these charges, he will flip backwards, kind of like how Ventus flips backwards after his Shotlocks in Birth by Sleep. Favorite Deputy's Shotlock is called Ghost Horde and can lock on to 11 targets. The charge up shows fog or some kind of wind gathering around him before he disappears. The after images are ghosts of Sora and wispy white light trails behind him. The same fog or air at the beginning is pushed outwards at the end of the Shotlock. Classic Tone Shotlock is called Phantom Rush and can lock on to 15 enemies. As Sora charges up, a countdown starts from 3 and the screen turns black and white. The after images are the Timeless River version of Sora from Kingdom Hearts 2, and the trails are cartoon clouds and lines of light. A cartoon effect shows up after every successful hit. The effect at the end of the Shotlock shows wind swirling around Sora and a cartoon cloud and stars exploding outwards from him. The last category is the Blade Shotlocks. There are 3 blades associated with this category. These are Starlight, Crystal Snow, and Wheel of Fate. The Shotlock shows Sora jumping into the air and spinning his Keyblade above his head with a wind or light effect spinning above him depending on the Keyblade you are using. He then thrusts his Keyblade forward, shooting out projectiles as he twists in the air. After every twist, he will hold his Keyblade straight out in front of him. It's actually pretty smart how they set this animation up. When he holds out the Keyblade in front of himself, the end animation can fit right in. If you are locked onto a high number of enemies, Sora will spin 3 times in the air. If you are locked onto a medium number of enemies, he will spin twice, and if you are only locked onto a couple of enemies, he will spin once. The end animation is still smooth for each level of enemies you are targeting. Not really an important detail, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Starlight's Shotlock is called Blaze of the Round and can lock onto 23 enemies. Wind and a ray of light circle above his head at the start of the Shotlock. When he shoots out the projectiles, he actually shoots out beams of light that then spawn spinning blades of light. It's pretty interesting how both of Starlight's shotlocks shoot out the purplish white light, almost like it's being taken over by darkness. This Keyblade is associated with the Age of Fairy Tales and the old Keyblade wielders, so I wonder if this is some hint to a darker story. I don't know, just something I've been wondering about. Anyways, Crystal Snow's shotlock is called Diamond Dust and can lock on to 23 enemies. Air swirls above Sora during the start of the shotlock, and the projectiles are giant snowflakes that fly towards enemies. Ice effects can also be seen where the snowflakes are spawned. Wheel of Fate's shotlock is called Blade Storm and can target 31 enemies. Arrow Magic and a Ray of Light spin above Sora, and small air blades fly towards enemies, which after a couple seconds grow into giant air blades. And that is it for the base shotlocks. It's really amazing how everything is so detailed in this game. Kingdom Hearts 2 had some amazing detail, don't get me wrong, and I enjoyed putting together the drive form breakdowns, but I am blown away with everything that is packed into Kingdom Hearts 3. It's really refreshing to come back to this game. Hey you guys, with the 1.07 update, Sora had some of his combat changed, as well as some new abilities added. I figured this would be a great time to do a breakdown plus on Sora's base form from Kingdom Hearts 3. I'll cover the changes to the combat, the new abilities, as well as some things I missed in my previous breakdown. So there were two noteworthy changes with the combat in Kingdom Hearts 3. The first is that Magic Flash now has a light effect that shows the range of the attack. The other change is huge. Almost all of your attacks now have cancel windows at multiple points in the attacks. You can dodge or block out of these. I think this was a great change, especially for the combo finishers. I know I personally would not equip any of the extra combo finishers in higher difficulties because you were locked into those longer attacks. You couldn't break out of it except through air stepping, which I always seem to forget about. Anyways, let's talk about the new abilities now. All of the newly added abilities were combo modifiers that replaced your old combo if you equip them all. You don't actually get access to them though until you beat the game or start a new game plus. The first ability is Quick Slash. This shows Sora spinning with his Keyblade outstretched before he slices upwards. A flash of energy shoots up in front of him from the slice. Sora follows this up with Flash Step. Sora jumps forward while holding the Keyblade out in front of himself. This can damage enemies, but also blocks incoming attacks. At the end of the dash, Sora slashes upwards. This will trigger first in the combo if you are far away from an enemy. This is also an attack from Kingdom Hearts 2. I actually didn't know that the reason this was called Flash Step was because you could see a flash of light on the ground where Sora kicks off from. This flash, though, isn't present in Kingdom Hearts 3. The last attack before the combo finisher is Radio Blaster. This launches blade projectiles at nearby enemies. Sora twists into the air and slams his Keyblade down, pushing out blades as an orb appears and pushes outward the attack. This will trigger first in the combo if you are surrounded by enemies. You can see a bit more at the bottom of the attack in the air since the ground does hide it from view. During combat, you can use some of these abilities twice in a combo depending on what you start with. Alongside these combo modifiers, you also have access to two situational attacks, which are Aerial Dive and Aerial Sweep. Both of these are callbacks to attacks from Kingdom Hearts 2 and will trigger if you are above an enemy for Aerial Dive or below the enemy for Aerial Sweep. The last ability is called Last Charge. Sora spins on the ground before he jumps forward with a slash. His Keyblade glows with a flash of light as he jumps into the air, and a pillar of light shoots into the air as he strikes forward. A shockwave also pushes out. If you trigger this in the air, you can see that the pillar shoots out in both directions. It's slightly different, but this immediately reminded me of the Ancient Light finisher with the Starlight Keyblade. Last but not least, I wanted to touch on some things I missed from the previous breakdown. The counter kick reprisal is extremely similar to this flow motion attack from Dream Drop Distance. In my original breakdown, I briefly touched on the wrist dodges that you could perform, but I didn't know how many there were. Now, I believe I can say for sure that there are 4 wrist dodges. There is the strike rate attack against large bodies, the disappearing strike where you teleport beside the enemy, the sliding attack where you slide forward under the enemy and plant your Keyblade in the ground to spin off of, and the reversal dodge where you slide around the enemy like the reversal command from Kingdom Hearts 2. And I think that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed. The Osaka team has been doing really great with these recent patches, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. Anyways, I'm pretty active on Twitch, YouTube, Discord, and Twitter, so be sure to follow the links down in the description below to stay connected. If you enjoyed this, click the card on screen to see my original breakdown on base Sora. Subscribe or share this and I'll see you in the next video.